Steeped Teas and Mysteries presents an original murder mystery story in the Quaint Killings series. Book 2, The Fisherman's Hook. Chapter 1, The Catch of the Day. Amelia Harrow was scrubbing down the check-in desk of the Willowmere Inn when the call came in, sharp and crackling over the ancient rotary phone her grandmother had insisted on keeping. It was barely past dawn, the kind of gray morning where the lake outside the bay window looked like a slab of slate, and the air smelled faintly of damp lavender from the garden. She'd been up since 5, her boots leaving muddy streaks on the creaky floorboards as she hauled in firewood. October in Willowmere was chilly, and the guests in room 7 had complained about the cold the night before. The phone's ring jolted her out of her rhythm, and she wiped her hands on her apron, her chestnut hair slipping from its scarf as she reached for the receiver. "Willowmere Inn, Amelia speaking," she said, her voice steady but laced with that dry edge she'd honed over years of wrangling tourists. "Amelia, it's Jed down at the Flow," came the gravelly reply, rushed and a little breathless. Jed was a regular, a fisherman who'd been casting lines on the Willowmere Flow since before she was born. "You'd better get out here. Got a body in slip 3. One of yours, I think." Her stomach dropped, but she kept her tone even. "One of mine? You sure?" "Wearing that green flannel room 7's been flaunting all week," Jed said. "Big guy, city type, bragging about his trout haul yesterday. Looks like he caught more than he bargained for. Hooked through the neck, tangled in line." Amelia's mind raced. Room 7, Victor Grayson, the loudmouth from the city who'd checked in 3 days ago with a fishing rod and a smirk, boasting about outfishing the locals. She'd last seen him stumbling in after dark, reeking of lake water and whiskey, muttering about showing them all. Now he was dead? "All right, Jed," she said, grabbing her jacket from the peg. "I'm coming. Keep folks away. Cops on their way?" "Called 'em already," he said. "Hurry, though. This ain't pretty." She hung up, her boots thudding as she crossed the lobby to the kitchen door. "Lillian," she called, shoving it open. The air hit her with a blast of cinnamon. Lillian Nassif, the inn's chef and her oldest friend, was elbow-deep in pancake batter, her dark bun a mess, her olive skin dusted with flour. "What now?" Lillian snapped, not looking up, her sharp tongue already primed. "Sink's still gurgling. Don't tell me it's flooded again." "Worse," Amelia said, grabbing the golf cart keys from the hook. "Victor Grayson's dead. Jed found him at the Flow, hooked and strung up. I'm heading out." Lillian's head whipped around, her dark eyes narrowing. "Dead? That blowhard? Who'd bother? He was all talk." "Someone didn't think so," Amelia said, her scarf flapping as she turned. "Cover the desk. Guests'll be up soon." "Great," Lillian muttered, wiping her hands on her apron. "Pancakes and a corpse. Perfect morning." Amelia didn't wait for more. She bolted out the back, the golf cart humming to life as she tore down the cobblestone path toward the Willowmere Flow. The town was waking up, Main Street's historic core still sleepy. Willowmere books shuddered, the toy chest's wooden sign swaying in the breeze. The modern outskirts flickered by next, the burger joint's neon sign dark, the gas station lonely. The Flow wasn't far. A 20-minute ride winding past lavender beds and lakefront willows, its docks a lifeline for the town's fishermen. She spotted Jed's grizzled figure waving her down at slip 3, his skiff bobbing beside a grim tableau. Victor Grayson hung limp against the dock post, his green flannel soaked red, a fish hook piercing his neck, fishing line wrapped tight around his throat. His rod lay snapped beside him, his boots dangling in the water. Eyes wide, mouth slack, a trout still twitching on his line like a cruel joke. "Jesus," Amelia breathed, parking the cart and stepping onto the muddy bank, her boots sinking in. "What a mess." "Told ya," Jed said, his watery blue eyes grim. "Found him an hour ago. Thought he was drunk till I saw the hook. Cops'll be here soon. Your detective friend's probably itching to pin this on someone." Samuel Carter, Willowmere's only detective, a gruff bastard with graying hair and a scar over his eyebrow who'd been sniffing around the inn since a bar brawl last summer. Amelia groaned inwardly. He'd love this. "Yeah, well, he can start with whoever hated Grayson's guts," she said. "Which is half the town. He's been casting on the Flow like he owned it." Jed grunted, nodding toward the body. "Half the town's been casting on the Flow lately. Trout's running thick. But this ain't about fish." "No," Amelia said. Chapter 2, The Kitchen Clue. By noon, the Willowmere Inn was a hive of controlled chaos, the kind Amelia Harrow thrived in despite the knot in her gut. The lobby smelled of Lillian's cinnamon pancakes, now cold on a platter by the check-in desk, abandoned when Samuel Carter had roared up in his golf cart, badge flashing like he owned the place. He'd cordoned off room 7 with yellow tape, his deputies stomping mud across the creaky floorboards as they hauled out Victor Grayson's gear. Rod, tackle box, a half-empty whiskey bottle. Guests milled around, whispering, their eyes darting between the tape and Amelia's calm facade as she fielded questions with her grandmother's practiced warmth. Terrible business, Mrs. Pembroke from room 9 clucked, her knitting needles clicking over a half-formed scarf. Right upstairs. Is it safe to stay? Safe as ever, Amelia said, her tone firm but dry. Killer's not dumb enough to stick around. Enjoy your pancakes, Mrs. P. She nudged the platter closer, dodging the woman's next probe as she slipped into the kitchen. Lillian was a storm at the stove, flipping flatbreads with a vengeance, her dark eyes blazing as she muttered in Arabic under her breath. The sink gurgled. A finicky beast Daniel usually wrestled, but she ignored it, her olive skin flushed from heat and fury. That jackass Carter's been in here twice, she snapped, slamming a spatula down. Poking my knives like I'd stab someone. Me! Where's my boning knife, anyway? It's gone since breakfast. Amelia's brows shot up, her scarf slipping as she leaned on the counter. Gone? You sure Daniel didn't misplace it? Daniel's got the sink. He's not touching my station, Lillian said, her voice sharp as the missing blade. It was here when I plated Grayson's eggs yesterday. He was bitching about the yolks right there. She jabbed a finger at the counter, then froze, her eyes narrowing. You don't think? Could be, Amelia said, her mind ticking. Samuel's got the body, hooked and strangled, Jed said. But a knife, that's a cut, not a snag. Messy for fishing line. She straightened, her boots scuffing the tiles. Check the garden. Grayson came in through the back last night, stinking of lake. Lillian grabbed a towel, her bun unraveling as she stormed out the back door, Amelia on her heels. The garden was a damp patch of lavender and stone steps, the lake glinting beyond under a gray sky. Lillian knelt by the path, her fingers brushing the cracks, and stopped, her breath catching. Scales, she said, holding up a glint of silver. Fish scales, fresh ones, stuck in the mud here. He wasn't just drunk, he was gutting something. Amelia crouched, her hazel eyes narrowing at the shimmer. Or someone gutted him. Knife's a gutting tool, if it's yours. She trailed off, the knot tightening. Samuel's got to know. Could have washed down from the flow, but this close? Means it's close, Lillian said, standing, her towel clenched. Someone's been out here. My knife's not walking off on its own. The kitchen door creaked, and Eleanor Price stumbled in, literally, her long skirt catching the frame as she waved a stack of fishing logs. Her braid a mess, her wire-rimmed glasses fogged from the chill. Amelia, she panted, righting herself. Library's buzzing. Grayson was all over the flow logs. Bragged he outfished Hank Rawls last week. Hank's a local, big guy, hates city folk. Fought with him at the docks loud. Amelia's pulse ticked. Hank Rawls, the burly fisherman who'd fixed the inn's gutters last spring, all grunts and glares. Hank, she said, brushing mud off her hands. He's a grump, not a killer. Still, that's motive. Grayson's been crowing since he got here. Crow's down now, Lillian said, her smirk grim. Hank's got a boat. Slip 3 right where Jed found him. Coincidence? Doubt it, Eleanor said, shoving the logs forward, her blue eyes bright behind her glasses. Logs say Hank lost a big trout to Grayson, publicly. He's been sour since, threatened to string him up proper last summer over a net tangle. Amelia took the logs, her fingers tracing Grayson's scrawled boasts. 3 trout, 12 pounds. Locals can suck it. Samuel's got to see this, she said, her voice steady but sharp. Hank's in the mix, knife or not. Samuel's voice cut through from the lobby, gruff and close. Harrow, where's that guest list? He loomed in the doorway, his dark overcoat brushing the frame, his gray eyes locking on her with that mix of irritation and something she couldn't place. Piney cologne hit her like a jab. Right here, she said, tossing the logs on the counter, her smirk faint. But you'll want these too. Hank Rawls just swam up. He's stuck with us whether he likes it or not. Chapter 3. Hook, Line, and Gossip. Amelia Harrow adjusted her scarf against the afternoon chill as she trundled the golf cart down Main Street, the cobblestones rattling her bones, while the lake's gray sheen peeked through gaps in Willowmere's historic core. Samuel Carter had stormed off with the guest list and Eleanor's logs, his golf cart spitting gravel as he muttered about damn amateurs. But not before his gray eyes lingered on her a beat too long, that piney whiff trailing him like a taunt. She'd sent Lillian back to the kitchen to wrestle dinner prep and Eleanor to the library for more dirt, leaving her free to chase the town's pulse, gossip the real kind, not just fish tales. The Flow's drama had hit Main Street like a rogue wave. Willowmere Book's window buzzed with locals, the toy chest's wooden carvings gleamed under curious eyes, and the burger joint's neon flickered as early diners swapped theories. Amelia parked by the bakery, the air thick with yeast and whispers, and strode in, her boots clicking on the tile. Mrs. Pembroke was there, her knitting needles a blur, her gray curls bobbing as she held court with two shopkeepers, Mr. Harrow from the toy chest and Clara from the bookstore. "Amelia," Mrs. Pembroke chirped, her voice a mix of delight and nosiness. "Heard about your guest. Ghastly business." "Strangled with his own line, they say." "Close enough," Amelia said, her tone dry as she snagged a scone from the counter, on the house, thanks to years of inn loyalty. "Hooked through the neck, too. Messy way to go. What's Main Street saying?" Clara leaned in, her glasses glinting, her voice a conspiratorial hush. "Hank Rawls, he's the talk. Fought with that city fella last week. Near came to blows at the docks. Grayson waved a trout in his face, called him a washed-up river rat. Hank's been sour since." Mr. Harrow nodded, his weathered hands folding a napkin into a fish shape, habit from years carving toys. "Hank's a hothead. Always has been. Lost a net to Grayson last summer, swore he'd gut him like a perch. Didn't think he'd do it. Man's all bark, usually." Amelia's mind ticked. Eleanor's logs had Hank's threat, now echoed here. "Usually's the key," she said, brushing crumbs off her apron. "He's got a boat at Slip 3, where Grayson washed up. Anyone see him there last night?" Mrs. Pembroke's needles paused, her eyes gleaming. "Jed did. Said Hank was fiddling with his skiff after dark, muttering about fixing things, looked twitchy, kept checking the shore. I heard it from Clara's boy, who heard it from Jed's wife." "Twitchy's a start," Amelia said, filing it away. Jed hadn't mentioned that at the scene, but gossip had its own flow. "Grayson was loud. Anyone else he pissed off?" Clara smirked, adjusting her glasses. "Half the Flow. Bragged he'd outfish us all, but Hank's the one with the temper. Threw a tackle box at a tourist last year, got off with a warning. Samuel's got an eye on him. Saw him poking around Hank's boat this morning." Amelia's pulse ticked. Samuel was ahead of her, but not by much. "Good to know," she said, pocketing the scone's wax paper. "Keep the knitting circle humming, Mrs. P. I'll need more if it breaks." She hit the street again, the golf cart humming as she swung by the garden on instinct. Those fish scales still nagged her. The lavender beds swayed in the breeze, the stone steps glinting with afternoon light, and there, caught in a crack by the path, was a fish hook. Small, barbed, its metal dulled but sharp. She knelt, her scarf brushing the mud, and pried it free with a twig. Fresh, not rusted, like it had been dropped last night. "Gotcha," she muttered, tucking it into her apron pocket. Samuel'd want this, but she'd sit on it till the pieces fit. Grayson's hook was in his neck. This was extra? Someone else's? Hank's? Back at the inn, the lobby was a low hum, guests nibbling cold pancakes, Daniel manning the desk with his quiet calm, his gray-streaked beard catching the light as he handed out keys. "Trouble?" he asked, his warm brown eyes flicking to her mud-streaked boots. "Always," she said, sliding behind the counter. "Main Street's pointing at Hank Rawls. Fought with Grayson, twitchy at Slip 3 last night. Found this in the garden." She flashed the hook, its barb glinting. Daniel's brows rose, his voice steady. "Hank's a grump. Fixed our gutters last spring, all grunts. Killer, though? That's a jump." "Jumps are my specialty," she said, her smirk faint. "Lillian scales Eleanor's logs, now this. Hank's piling up." The kitchen door banged open, and Lillian stormed out, her apron flour-dusted, her dark eyes blazing. Sink's gurgling again. "Daniel, fix it, and Amelia, Eleanor's back," says Grayson's logs match Hank's boat slip. "She's got more. Library's a gold mine." Eleanor stumbled in behind her, arms full of papers, her glasses fogged as she tripped over the rug naturally, spilling half her haul. "He's right," she panted, righting herself. "Hank's Slip 3. Grayson marked it. Bragged he'd poach there." Hank's name's all over the fight logs, threats too. Amelia's hazel eyes sharpened, the hook heavy in her pocket. Samuel's sniffing the boat. Main Street saw him. We've got scales, threats, and this. Time to reel him in. Lillian smirked, crossing her arms. Reel who, Hank or Carter? You're juggling both. Both, Amelia said, her grin dry. Who's up for a trip to the Flow tomorrow? Chapter 4. Reeling in the Past. The next morning dawned gray and heavy, the kind of damp chill that seeped into Willowmere's bones and made the inn's creaky floorboards groan louder than usual. Amelia Harrow was up before the rooster. Her grandmother swore lived in the attic, though she'd never heard it, her boots thudding as she hauled firewood from the back shed. The lake beyond the bay window was a flat, steely expanse, the flow winding silent beyond, and the air smelled of wet earth and the faint lavender clinging to her scarf. She'd barely slept, the fishhook in her apron pocket a sharp nudge every time she shifted. Hank Rawls was in the frame, but the pieces weren't tight yet. She dumped the wood by the hearth, the lobby still dark, and headed to the kitchen. Lillian Nassif was already a whirlwind at the stove, her dark bun a mess, her olive skin flushed as she flipped flatbreads with a vengeance. Cinnamon lingered, but the za'atar hit harder today. Guests are up, she said, not looking up, her sharp tongue primed. Room 5's asking for murder trout. Told him to shove it. Sink still gurgling. Daniel's on it. Good, Amelia said, snagging a flatbread and dodging Lillian's spatula swipe. Hank's boat's on deck. Flow trip today. You in? Lillian smirked, slamming the spatula down. If my knife's there, I'm netting that bastard myself. Count me in. The front door creaked, and Eleanor Price stumbled in, her braid tangled with a twig, her arms loaded with more logs and papers. Library loot, no doubt. She tripped over the rug, predictably, spilling half her haul by the check-in desk, her glasses fogging as she panted. Amelia! Lillian! Found something huge! Slow down, Price, Amelia said, her dry wit cutting through as she grabbed a log before it rolled into the hearth. Huge like your last tumble or actual news? News, Eleanor said, righting herself, her blue eyes bright behind her glasses. Library's a gold mine, 1872 fishing logs, town records. Look. She shoved a brittle page forward, its ink faded but legible. Willowmere Pact. Silas Rawls, Hank's great-great-grand whatever, ran boats on the Flow, fined for unlicensed cargo, but it got dropped, shady as hell. Lillian leaned over, her towel dangling as she squinted. Shady how? Smuggling fish? More than fish, Eleanor said, her voice buzzing. Logs hint at liquor, or worse. Pact keeps popping up, Silas and some town bigwigs keeping the Flow clear. No details, but it's old. Hank's stash could tie in. Amelia's pulse ticked, the hook in her pocket suddenly heavier. Stash like coins? Samuel said Hank's hoarding heirlooms. Silas's leftovers? Could be, Eleanor said, flipping to another page. Hank's family's been on the Flow forever. Silas was the root. Grayson bragged he'd poached slip 3. Maybe he found more than trout. The kitchen door swung open, and Daniel poked his head out, his gray-streaked beard dripping from the sink fight, his warm brown eyes calm despite the chaos. Sink's tamed for now, he said, wiping his hands. Guests are fed. Room 9's asking about the tape upstairs. Tell him it's gone, Amelia said, her tone firm. Samuel cleared room 7 last night. Grayson's ghost won't haunt him. She turned to Eleanor, the logs heavy in her hands. Pact, huh? Hank's not just a grump. He's got history. History with teeth, Lillian said, her smirk grim. My knife's still missing. Bet it's on that boat gutting something. Or someone, Eleanor added, her grin fading as she adjusted her glasses. Silas's pact. Could be why Hank snapped. Grayson poked the wrong past. Amelia nodded, her mind spinning. Scales in the garden, the hook, Hank's threats, now this. Flow's our next stop. Slip 3, Hank's boat. We'll sniff it out, quietly. Quiet's not my style, Lillian said, grabbing her jacket. But I'll take the net. Hank's not slipping me again. The golf cart hummed as they trundled toward the Flow, the town waking slow under the gray sky. Main Street shops shuttered, the burger joint's neon still dark. The docks loomed after 20 minutes, the river's murmur a steady hum, its banks thick with willows drooping low. Slip 3 was empty, Hank's skiff gone, either hauled by Samuel or stashed elsewhere, but Jed waved them down from Slip 5, his grizzled hands knotting a net. Carter's been here, he said, his watery blue eyes squinting. Tore through Slip 3 at dawn, took the boat to the station, found a knife, he said, blood on it. Lillian's head snapped up, her dark eyes blazing. My knife? That bastard, Bloods Grayson's? Dunno, Jed said, shrugging. Sharp one, though. Samuel's testing it. Hank's in a cell, caught him last night near the bend, ranting about city rats. Amelia's hazel eyes narrowed. Samuel hadn't called, but he'd left a breadcrumb. Ben's close. His hollow's there. Anything else? Jed nodded, his voice low. Scales, found more by the dock, fresh ones. Someone's been gutting here. Recent. Matches the garden, Lillian said, her fist clenching. Hank's been busy. My knife's the star. Eleanor pulled the map fragment from her satchel, its X stark against the faded ink. Ben's here. Silas's drop, maybe. Hank's guarding more than coins. Amelia's boots squelched as she stepped closer to the water, the flow's surface rippling slow. Samuel's got the boat. Let's hit the inn, regroup. He'll come sniffing soon. Back at the inn, the lobby hummed, guests nibbling flatbreads, Daniel pouring coffee with his steady grin. Samuel's golf cart screeched up as they parked, his dark overcoat flapping as he strode in, a manila folder under his arm. Case notes, messy but deliberate. His gray eyes locked on Amelia, his scar stark in the light, that piney cologne hitting her again. Harrow, he said, his voice gruff but edged with something softer. You've been busy. Flow's a circus. Learned from you, she said, her smirk faint as she crossed her arms. Heard you nabbed Hank. Knife's Lillian's? Testing it, he said, dropping the folder on the desk. Open, a rookie move or a gift. Blood's fresh. Grayson's likely. Found it under a tarp. Hank's boat's a mess. He's locked up, ranting about family pride. Lillian lunged, her towel snapping. That's mine. Bastard owes me a new one. Courts'll sort it, Samuel said, his smirk flickering. You three, stay out of this now. I've got him. No promises, Amelia said, her hazel eyes steady as she grabbed the folder. Hank's name scrawled, slip 3, prior assault charge, dropped. You dropped this, accidentally, I'm sure. He sighed, running a hand through his graying hair, but didn't snatch it back. Impossible, he muttered, brushing past her, close enough to feel his heat, and headed out, his cart humming off. Eleanor grinned, nudging Amelia. He's smitten, leaving gifts now. Stuff it, Amelia said, but her cheeks warmed as she flipped the folder. Hank's pride, Silas Pact. We've got scales, a hook, a knife. Flow's next. Lillian smirked, cracking her knuckles. He's hooked. If that's my blade, he's gonna wish he'd stuck to fish. Chapter 5, The Fisherman's Shadow. The afternoon sun dipped low over Willowmere, casting long shadows across the inn's wraparound porch as Amelia Harrow wiped down the check-in desk. The lobby smelled of lemon polish and the faint cinnamon linger from Lillian's pancakes, but the usual hum of guest chatter was muted. Victor Grayson's murder had spooked the tourists, and 2 had checked out early, muttering about cursed vacations. Amelia's hazel eyes flicked to the grandfather clock, still stubbornly frozen at 6:47, and she sighed. The inn's heart was beating a little slower today, and it was her job to keep it pumping. She'd spent the morning fielding calls, mostly nosy locals, asking if the rumors were true, a few reporters from the city sniffing for a scoop. No comment, she'd said each time, her voice firm but warm, the way her grandmother had taught her to handle trouble. The fish hook sat in her apron pocket, a sharp little secret she hadn't shown Samuel yet, not until they had more. His case notes, scribbled with Hank Rawls' name and details like prior assault charge, dropped and seen near in last night, were tucked under the guest ledger, and she'd caught herself glancing at them more than once, wondering how much he'd meant to drop them. That piney cologne of his lingered in her mind, too, though she'd never admit it out loud. The kitchen door swung open, and Lillian Nassif stormed out, her chef's coat swapped for a practical jacket, her dark eyes glinting with purpose. Lunch is done, she announced, wiping her hands on a towel she tossed over her shoulder. Daniel's got the dinner prep under control. Poor man's elbow deep in dough for tomorrow's bread. I'm free to plot our next move. Amelia smirked, tying her chestnut hair back with a scarf. Good, because I've been thinking about that boat trip. The flow's calling, and Hank's not getting any less guilty. Damn right, Lillian said, crossing her arms. Those fish scales by the back door, I swept again after you left. More of 'em, fresh ones, stuck in the mud. Someone's been traipsing around out there, and I'd bet my rolling pin it's that river rat. Before Amelia could reply, the front door creaked open, and Eleanor Price stumbled in, her braid tangled with a stray twig and her arms loaded with more logbooks. Her wire-rimmed glasses were smudged, and one earbud dangled from her cardigan pocket, faintly blaring a true crime podcast about the telltale footprint. She caught her foot on the faded rug, naturally, and lurched forward, dropping a book that skidded toward the fireplace. Lillian snorted, her sharp tongue ready. "What's it this time, Price? A leaf? Your own conscience?" "Ha ha," Eleanor shot back, brushing off her long skirt as she retrieved the book. "I was distracted. Found more in the library. You'll thank me when I'm done." She plopped the stack on the check-in desk, narrowly missing the jar of homemade cookies Amelia kept for guests, and adjusted her glasses with a triumphant grin. Hank's family's got roots deeper than the willow trees around here. I cross-checked the Pact log with some old town records. His great-great-grandfather, Silas Rawls, was a boatman on the Flow in the 1800s. Fined once for unlicensed cargo, but the charges got dropped. Sound familiar? Amelia's brows shot up. Like Samuel's notes. Hank's assault charge dropped. Runs in the family, huh? Could be, Eleanor said, flipping open a logbook to a yellowed page. Silas was a rough sort. Rumors he ran with the Pact, moving stuff under the cover of night. No proof, just whispers. But if Hank's got that blood in him, maybe he's not just mad about fish. Maybe Victor stumbled onto something he shouldn't have. Lillian leaned against the desk, her bun unraveling further. What, like Grayson caught Hank smuggling instead of trout? That's a leap, even for you. Maybe not smuggling, Eleanor admitted, sipping from a thermos she'd pulled from her bag. Tea, judging by the chamomile whiff. But something shady. Grayson was nosy, kept bragging about knowing the Flow better than the locals. What if he saw Hank doing something off and Hank shut him up? Amelia tapped the fish hook in her pocket, her mind spinning. It fits. The hook, the scales, the knife. Hank's been too close to the inn. We need to see that boat tomorrow morning, first light. Before he gets wind, we're onto him. Agreed, Lillian said, her voice firm. I'll bring Daniel's old fishing net, just in case we need to snag more than clues. Eleanor grinned, then wobbled as she shifted her weight, catching herself on the desk. I'll bring my camera, document everything. And maybe a podcast for the ride, keep us sharp. Lillian rolled her eyes. Keep you tripping, you mean? But fine, dawn it is. Golf cart's charged, right? Always, Amelia said, her dry wit kicking in. Wouldn't want to walk to a murder investigation. Bad for the boots. The trio's planning was cut short by a shadow moving past the lobby's bay window. Amelia's head snapped up, her sharp eyes catching a glimpse of a burly figure in a worn jacket, hunched against the evening chill. He was too far to make out clearly, but the way he moved, slow, deliberate, like he didn't want to be seen, sent a prickle up her spine. She stepped onto the porch, the creak of the boards loud in the quiet, and squinted into the dusk. The figure paused near the garden, then vanished around the corner toward Main Street. Lillian, Eleanor, out here now, she called, her voice low but urgent. They joined her, Lillian's hand already on the towel like it was a weapon, Eleanor clutching her thermos like a shield. What did you see? Lillian asked, peering into the gloom. Someone by the garden, Amelia said, her pulse ticking up. Big guy, jacket, could have been Hank. Too dark to tell, but he was lurking. Eleanor adjusted her glasses, her blue eyes wide. You think he's watching us? Or the inn, Amelia said, stepping down to the garden path. The lavender beds rustled in the breeze, and she knelt by the stone steps where Lillian had found the scales. Sure enough, fresh mud smudged the edge and a single fish scale glinted in the fading light, smaller than the others but unmistakable. He's been here again, tonight. Lillian swore under her breath, her Arabic slipping out in a sharp hiss. That's it. I'm locking the back door tonight, finicky or not. If he's bold enough to skulk around after killing someone, he's not getting in my kitchen again. Smart, Amelia said, standing and brushing off her hands. But it means he's nervous. We've got him rattled. Those scales, the hook, us poking around. He knows we're close. Eleanor shivered, clutching her logbooks tighter. That's good, right? Nervous people slip up, but it's also creepy. What if he tries something before we get to the Flow? He won't, Lillian said, her tone fierce. Not with 3 of us here, and Daniel in the kitchen. Plus, Samuel's got eyes on him. Those notes prove it. We just need to stay sharp till morning. Amelia nodded, though the prickle hadn't left her spine. Let's get inside, finish up for the night. I'll check the guest rooms, make sure no one's lurking where they shouldn't be. Eleanor, you're staying here tonight. No sense walking home with him out there. Fine by me, Eleanor said, her usual cheer dimmed by a flicker of nerves. Muffin and Pippin'll survive a night without me. Cat and hamster are tougher than they look. They filed back into the lobby, the warmth of the inn wrapping around them like a hug. Amelia locked the front door, a rare move, but it felt right, and headed upstairs, her boots echoing on the creaky steps. Room 7 was empty now, the quilt stripped and the fishing rod gone, but the air still felt heavy, like Victor's ghost was lingering. She checked the other rooms, 3 occupied, 2 vacant, and found nothing amiss, just the usual tourist clutter. A half-read paperback in room 5, a pair of muddy boots in room 9. Downstairs, Lillian was bolting the kitchen's back door, muttering about river rats as Daniel finished kneading dough, his calm presence a steady anchor. Eleanor had settled in the dining room, her logbooks spread across a checkered tablecloth, her podcast now on low through a tiny speaker. Just background noise, she said when Amelia raised an eyebrow. Helps me think. Think fast, Amelia replied, sliding into a chair. We've got a big day tomorrow. Hank's boat, slip 3. Samuel's notes said it. We go in quiet, look for the knife, anything tying him to Victor. If we're lucky, we wrap this up before he knows what hit him. Lillian joined them, plopping a plate of leftover pancakes in the center. Luck's got nothing to do with it. We've got scales, a hook, and a detective who's half on our side. Hank's going down, knife or no knife. Amelia grinned, snagging a pancake. Half on our side's generous. Samuel'd lock us in the cellar if he could. Bet he'd try, Eleanor said, her humor creeping back. But he'd trip over my books first. Then you'd hear Lillian yelling from the kitchen. Lillian smirked, tossing her towel at Eleanor, who ducked just in time. Keep it up, Price. You'll be bait tomorrow. The laughter eased the tension, but as Amelia chewed her pancake, her eyes drifted to the bay window. The shadows outside were thicker now, the lake a dark smudge beyond the glass. Hank was out there, somewhere, and the Willowmere Flow was waiting. Tomorrow, they'd reel him in, or get caught in his net. Chapter 6, River Rumors. Dawn broke over Willowmere with a soft pink glow, the kind that painted the lake like a postcard and made the inn's ivy shimmer with morning dew. Amelia Harrow was up before the rooster her grandmother used to swear lived in the attic, though she'd never heard it herself. She stood on the wraparound porch, her boots scuffing the creaky boards as she sipped coffee from a chipped mug, the steam curling into the chilly air. The fishhook in her apron pocket felt heavier today, a barbed promise of answers waiting at the Willowmere Flow. Inside, the lobby was still, the grandfather clock mocking her with its frozen hands. She'd locked the front door last night after spotting that shadow. Hank or not, she wasn't taking chances, and the inn felt like it was holding its breath. The dining room's bay window was fogged with the promise of Lillian's breakfast, but the kitchen was quiet for now. They'd agreed to meet at first light, and Amelia could already hear the golf cart's faint hum as Lillian and Eleanor rolled up from the back. Lillian climbed out first, her jacket zipped tight, a fishing net slung over her shoulder like a warrior's shield. Daniel's holding the fort, she said, her dark eyes sharp despite the early hour. He's got coffee going for the guests. Poor man's gonna need it after last night's dough marathon. Eleanor followed, her braid neater than usual, a camera dangling around her neck and a thermos of tea in hand. She'd swapped her long skirt for practical pants, though her cardigan still screamed librarian. I brought the ledger, she said, patting a bag slung across her chest. And my podcast's cued. The Riverbank Strangler, perfect for the vibe. She grinned, then wobbled as her foot caught the edge of the cart, nearly spilling her tea. Lillian smirked, her sharp tongue primed. Careful, Price. We're hunting a killer, not auditioning for slapstick. Very funny, Eleanor shot back, steadying herself. You'll thank me when I snap a photo of Hank's guilty face. Amelia set her mug on the porch railing, her hazel eyes scanning the garden where that shadow had lurked. Let's hope he's there to photograph. If he's smart, he's halfway down the flow by now, but I've got a feeling he's too stubborn to run. She grabbed the golf cart keys and hopped in, the seat creaking under her. Flow's 20 minutes. Let's move. The ride was brisk, the cart's hum blending with the rustle of leaves and the distant splash of the river. They zipped past Main Street's historic core, where the toy chest's wooden signs swayed and Willowmere Book's windows glinted with dawn light. Tourists were scarce this early, but a few locals waved. Mrs. Pembroke, sweeping her stoop, gave them a knowing nod, probably already spinning tales about the inn's latest drama. The modern outskirts flickered by next, the burger joint's sign dark, the gas station's pumps lonely in the gray light. The Willowmere Flow came into view as the sun climbed higher, its waters glinting gold and green between the willow trees. The docks were busier than yesterday. Half a dozen boats bobbed at their slips, fishermen prepping lines and nets for the day. Slip 3 was still empty. Hank's boat nowhere in sight, but Amelia spotted Jed, the grizzled net mender from last night, sipping coffee from a thermos by his skiff. "Morning, Jed," she called, parking the cart and stepping onto the muddy bank. "Hank been around yet?" Jed squinted up, his watery blue eyes narrowing as Lillian and Eleanor flanked her. "You're persistent, I'll give you that. He rolled in about an hour ago, docked downriver near the bend. Said he needed quiet after yesterday's fuss." Looked twitchy, though. Kept glancing over his shoulder like the fish were out to get him. "Twitchy's a start," Lillian said, adjusting the net on her shoulder. "He say anything else?" Jed shrugged, taking a slow sip. "Muttered about fixing mistakes. Didn't ask what. Hank's not the chatty type unless you've got a rod in hand. But I heard him arguing with that city fella Grayson last week, right here by Slip 5, loud enough to scare the trout off. Grayson was waving a big fish around, saying he'd showed up the locals. Hank near threw a tackle box at him." Amelia's pulse ticked up. "Anyone else see that?" "Plenty," Jed said, nodding toward a wiry woman in a flannel shirt unloading gear from a boat 2 slips down. "Maggie over there was fishing nearby. Heard the whole thing. She's got a mouth on her, too. Ask her." "Thanks, Jed," Amelia said, her boots squelching as she led the trio toward Maggie's boat. The woman was short, her graying hair tied back with a bandana, her hands deftly sorting lures into a box. She looked up as they approached, her brown eyes sharp and wary. "You're the inn crew," Maggie said, not pausing her work. "Heard about your dead guy. What's it to me?" "We're looking for Hank Rawls," Amelia said, keeping her tone casual. "Jed says you saw him fighting with Victor Grayson last week. Mind telling us?" Maggie snorted, tossing a lure into the box with a clink. "Saw it, heard it, damn near got splashed by it. Grayson was a loudmouth, strutting around with that trout like he'd invented fishing. Hank was red in the face, yelling about outsiders stealing his river. Said he'd make him pay if he didn't shut up. Grayson laughed it off, called him an old has-been. Next thing I know, Hank's storming off, muttering about stringing him up proper. Didn't think he'd do it. Hank's all bark, usually." "Stringing him up," Eleanor echoed, her camera clicking as she snapped a photo of the docks. "That's twice now. Same threat he made last summer in the logs." Maggie raised an eyebrow. "Logs? You some kinda historian?" "Something like that," Eleanor said, grinning. "Librarian, mostly. You see Hank since then?" "Yesterday," Maggie said, wiping her hands on her jeans. "He was here at dusk, fiddling with his boat. Slip 3's his usual spot, but he took off downriver after dark. Looked jumpy, kept checking the shore. I figured he was dodging the cops. Word's out your detective's been asking around." Lillian's eyes narrowed, her grip tightening on the net. "Jumpy's good. Means he's got something to hide, like my knife." Maggie smirked. "Knife, huh? He had a blade on him yesterday, sharp one, glinting when he turned. Didn't get a close look, but he was stashing gear in a box like he didn't want it seen." Amelia's mind raced, the pieces clicking. "Thanks, Maggie. If he's at the bend, we'll find him." "Anything else?" "Just watch yourselves," Maggie said, her tone gruff but not unkind. "Hank's a bear when he's cornered, and that bend's his den. River's quiet there. Good for hiding, not so good if he spots you first." They thanked her and trudged back to the cart, the mud sucking at their boots. Amelia slid behind the wheel, her hazel eyes fixed on the river's curve in the distance. "The bend's a mile down. Golf cart'll get us close, but we'll have to walk the last bit. He's there. I'd bet on it." "Bet on my net catching him," Lillian said, climbing in. "If that's my knife, he's not slipping away." Eleanor settled in the back, her camera ready. "I'll snap the boat, evidence for Samuel, and maybe the riverbank for ambiance. This is getting good, better than my podcasts." She paused, then tripped over her own bag as she adjusted it, nearly tumbling out. Lillian laughed, a rare full chuckle. "Keep that up, Price, and you'll be the ambiance, flopping in the mud like a trout." Laugh it up, Eleanor grumbled, righting herself. You'll be glad I've got the camera when we nail him. Amelia hit the throttle, the cart lurching forward along the river path. The flow wound lazy and wide here, its banks thick with reeds and willows that drooped low, brushing the water. The air smelled of damp earth and fish, and the splash of a jumping perch broke the quiet now and then. They passed a few early anglers casting lines, their nods curt but friendly. Willowmere folk knew the inn crew, even if they didn't know the mission. The bend came into view after 10 minutes, a secluded curve where the river narrowed and the trees thickened. Amelia slowed the cart, parking it behind a cluster of willows to keep it out of sight. Hank's boat, a weathered skiff with a peeling blue hull, bobbed gently at a makeshift dock tied to a stump with a frayed rope. The deck was cluttered with tackle boxes, a net, and a tarp half covering something lumpy in the stern. No sign of Hank, but a faint trail of muddy boot prints led from the boat into the trees. There, Lillian whispered, pointing to the prints. He's close. Amelia nodded, her hand brushing the fishhook in her pocket. We checked the boat first, quietly. Knife, gear, anything tying him to Victor. Then we find him. Eleanor clicked her camera, the shutter soft but sharp. Got the boat? Let's move before he comes back. They stepped onto the bank, the mud squelching underfoot, the river's murmur a steady hum. The flow felt alive here, watching them as they closed in on Hank's lair. Chapter 7. The bait is set. The morning air along the Willowmere Flow was thick with the scent of river mud and wet leaves, the kind of damp chill that clung to your skin and made you wish for a second cup of coffee. Amelia Harrow crouched behind a willow tree, its drooping branches brushing her scarf as she peered at Hank Rawls's boat. The weathered skiff rocked gently at the makeshift dock, its blue paint peeling like old skin, the tarp in the stern fluttering in the breeze. The muddy boot prints leading into the trees were fresh, and the quiet hum of the river felt like a held breath. Hank was close, but not here. Perfect. Lillian Nassif knelt beside her, her fishing net gripped like a lifeline, her dark eyes narrowed at the boat. If my knife's in there, I'm hauling it out myself, she whispered, her voice tight. And if Hank's dumb enough to show up, this net's got his name on it. Amelia smirked, her dry wit slipping out. Let's not tangle him up just yet. Samuel'd have a fit. We need proof first. She glanced back at Eleanor Price, who was fiddling with her camera a few feet away, her braid catching on a twig as she adjusted the lens. Ready with that shutter, Price? Always, Eleanor said, clicking a test shot of the boat. The soft snap echoed faintly, and she winced, ducking lower. Got the exterior. Let's move before he hears us, or I trip and announce us myself. Lillian snorted, her humor sharp as ever. Wouldn't be the first time. Just don't fall in the river. We're fishing for evidence, not librarians. Ha ha, Eleanor muttered, brushing off her pants. You'll thank me when these photos nail him. Amelia nodded, her hazel eyes scanning the trees. The boot prints veered left, toward a thicket of reeds, and she caught a faint rustle. Wind, maybe, or Hank moving deeper in. He's out there, but not close. Let's go, quiet and quick. She stepped onto the bank, her boots sinking into the mud with a soft squelch, and led the trio toward the skiff. The boat was a mess up close. Tackle boxes strewn across the deck, a tangled net spilling over the side, a rusty bucket half full of river water sloshing with each sway. The tarp covered a lumpy pile in the stern, and Amelia's pulse ticked up as she reached for it, her fingers brushing the rough canvas. Keep watch, she said, glancing at Lillian. If he comes back, net him or yell. Your call. Net first, yell second, Lillian said, positioning herself at the bow, her stance wide and ready. Eleanor stayed near the dock, her camera clicking as she snapped shots of the deck. The tackle, the net, the muddy prints smudged across the wood. This is gold, she whispered. Samuel can't argue with this. Looks like a crime scene already. Amelia tugged the tarp aside, revealing a jumble of gear. A coiled fishing line, a dented thermos, a pair of worn gloves, and there, half buried under a frayed rope, glinted Lillian's boning knife, its sleek blade dulled with dried blood, the handle still bearing the faint scratch from when she'd dropped it in the city years back. Found it, Amelia said, her voice low but steady. Your knife, Lil, blood and all. Lillian leaned over, her breath catching. That's mine, all right. Bastard didn't even clean it. Look at that mess. Victor's blood? Probably, Amelia said, pulling a handkerchief from her pocket to wrap the knife without smudging prints. Samuel'll test it, but it's a damn good start. She tucked it into her apron, the weight of it solid against her hip. Eleanor clicked a photo of the pile, her blue eyes wide behind her glasses. That's not all. Look. She pointed to a spool of fishing line tucked under the gloves, its thin, clear thread matching the kind wrapped around Victor's neck. Same gauge as room 7. He didn't even hide it. Sloppy, Lillian said, her lips twitching into a grim smile. Or cocky. Either way, he's cooked. Amelia nodded, her mind racing. Knife, line, ties him to the murder tight. But we need more, something personal, something he can't explain away. She rummaged deeper, pushing aside the thermos, still warm, he'd been here recently, and found a small wooden box wedged against the seat. It was old, its lid carved with a crude fish, the hinges rusted shut. She pried it open with a creak, revealing a stash of odds and ends. A faded photo of a younger Hank with a stern-looking man by the river, a handful of tarnished coins, and a yellowed letter folded tight. Jackpot, she said, unfolding the letter. The ink was smudged, dated decades back, but the words jumped out. Silas Rawls. Pact business. Keep the flow clear. No outsiders. Eleanor, your ledger? Wasn't Silas Hank's ancestor? Eleanor shuffled over, peering at the paper. Yep, great-great-grandfather, boatman for the Pact. This is big, ties him to that smuggling history. Maybe Victor wasn't just a fishing rival. Maybe he saw something Hank's still hiding. Like what? Lillian asked, her net still at the ready. He's not hauling liquor in this wreck. Dunno, Amelia admitted, tucking the letter into her pocket with the knife. But it's leverage, shows he's got secrets worth killing for. She scanned the boat again, spotting a scrap of fabric caught on a nail near the stern. Flannel, green and black, matching the shirt Victor wore at check-in. And this, Grayson's shirt. He fought back, left a mark. Eleanor snapped a photo, her camera steady despite the mud sucking at her boots. That's it. Knife, line, shirt, letter. Samuel's got no choice but to move on this. Let's bag it and go, Amelia said, wrapping the fabric in another handkerchief. Hank's too close. We've pushed our luck. Lillian nodded, but her eyes flicked to the trees, her grip tightening. Too late. He's back. Amelia whipped around, her heart thudding as Hank Rawls emerged from the thicket, his burly frame filling the path. His cap was pulled low, his jacket mud-streaked, and his weathered face twisted into a scowl as he spotted them. "What the hell are you doing on my boat?" he growled, his voice rough as river gravel. He took a step forward, a fishing rod in one hand, the other clenched into a fist. "Morning, Hank," Amelia said, her tone light but her hand on the knife in her pocket. "Just admiring the view. Nice rig you've got." "Bull," he snapped, stomping closer. "You're snooping. Heard you've been asking around. Get off before I make you." Lillian stepped forward, net raised like a shield. "Try it, Rawls. You've got my knife, and I want it back, along with an explanation for that dead guy upstairs." Hank's eyes narrowed, flickering to the tarp. Too late to hide what they'd found. "Don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his voice shook, betraying him. "You've got no business here." "We've got plenty," Eleanor piped up, her camera clicking as she snapped his photo. "Knife, fishing line, a piece of Victor's shirt. Oh, and a letter from your smuggler kin. Ring any bells?" Hank froze, his scowl deepening, then lunged toward the boat, aiming for the stern. Lillian swung the net, catching his arm and yanking him back with a grunt. "Not so fast," she hissed, pulling tight as he stumbled. Amelia darted between them, her boots slipping in the mud. "Hank, stop. Samuel's already on to you. We've got enough to bury you. Don't make it worse." He wrenched free, the net tearing slightly, and glared at them, his breath heaving. "You don't know what you're messing with," he snarled. "Grayson was a nosy bastard, poking where he shouldn't. I warned him." "Warned him with fishing line?" Lillian shot back, her eyes blazing. "That's some warning." Hank's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer, just turned and bolted back into the trees, his heavy steps crashing through the reeds. Amelia started after him, but Lillian grabbed her arm. "Let him run. He's spooked. We've got what we need." "She's right," Eleanor said, pocketing her camera. "Photos, evidence. Samuel can chase him down. We're not cops." Amelia hesitated, her pulse still racing, then nodded. "Fine. Back to the inn. We hand this over and let him finish it. But Hank's not done. He'll circle back." They piled into the golf cart, the boat's muddy deck shrinking behind them as Amelia hit the throttle. The river's hum faded into the rustle of leaves, but Hank's words echoed in her head, poking where he shouldn't. The Willowmere Flow was hiding more than fish, and they just stirred the waters. Chapter 8. A Slippery Catch. The golf cart's hum was a lifeline as Amelia Harrow floored it back toward the Willowmere Inn, the muddy banks of the flow shrinking in the rear view. The morning sun had climbed higher, burning off the river's mist, but her pulse still thrummed from Hank Rawls' sudden bolt into the trees. The knife, wrapped in her handkerchief, pressed against her hip in her apron pocket, alongside the fishing line spool, the flannel scrap, and that cryptic letter from Silas Rawls. Evidence enough to sink Hank if they could get it to Samuel Carter before he slipped away for good. Lillian Nassif gripped the cart's edge, her fishing net still tangled from snagging Hank's arm, her dark eyes blazing. "He's faster than he looks," she muttered, brushing mud off her jacket. "Should have yanked harder. Could have dragged him back and saved us the chase." Amelia smirked, steering around a bend as the willows thinned. "Samuel'd lock us up for that, net or no net. We've got what we need. Let him do the dirty work now." Eleanor Price clutched her camera in the back, her braid a mess from the scramble, her glasses fogged with exertion. "Photos, too," she said, patting the device like a prized pet. Caught his face mid-snarl, perfect for the case file. Though I'd have liked one of him in the net, Lil, just for the scrapbook. Lillian snorted, her sharp tongue cutting through the tension. "Next time, Price, you can frame it next to the shot of you tripping over your own feet." "Laugh it up," Eleanor shot back, grinning despite the jab. "You'll thank me when these pics seal the deal." The cart jolted over a root, and Amelia slowed as they neared the main docks, the bustle of fishermen prepping for the day louder now, lines casting, buckets clanging, voices calling over the water. Jed waved from his skiff, his net-mending paused as he squinted at them. "Find your man?" he hollered, his gravelly voice carrying. "Found more than that," Amelia called back, keeping it vague. "He's on the move. Keep an eye out, Jed." He nodded, returning to his net, but Maggie, 2 slips down, perked up from her lure sorting. "Hank's running," she said, wiping her hands on her flannel. "Figures, he's been twitchy since that city fella showed up. You nail him yet?" "Close enough," Lillian said, hefting the torn net. "He's got my knife, and we've got proof." "Cops'll handle the rest." Maggie smirked, tossing a lure into her box. "Good luck. Hank knows the flow like his own shadow. Slippery bastard when he wants to be." Amelia's grip tightened on the wheel, Maggie's words echoing Hank's parting shot. "You don't know what you're messing with." "He's slippery till he's not," she said, hitting the throttle again. "Inn's next. Samuel needs this now." The ride back was a blur of cobblestone and golf cart hum, Main Street's historic charm flashing by. The toy chest's wooden toys glinting in the sun, Willowmere Book's musty allure tugging at Eleanor's heart. The inn loomed ahead, its ivy-covered walls a welcome sight, the wraparound porch creaking as a guest rocked in a chair, oblivious to the storm brewing. Amelia parked out back, the garden's lavender swaying as they piled out, mud-caked and buzzing with adrenaline. Inside, the kitchen was a warm chaos of clattering pans and cinnamon-scented air. Daniel Nassif at the stove, flipping flatbreads with the calm of a man who'd weathered worse than a murder investigation. He glanced up, his gray-streaked beard catching the light, his warm brown eyes narrowing at their disheveled state. "Trouble?" he asked, sliding a plate onto the counter. "Caught Hank with his pants down." "Well, his boat, anyway," Lillian said, dropping the net by the door. "Got my knife back, bloody and all. He ran, but we've got enough to fry him." Daniel chuckled, low and steady. "Samuel's upstairs, came by 10 minutes ago, poking around room 7 again. Looked antsy. Think he knows you're up to something." Amelia's hazel eyes flicked to the ceiling, her mind ticking. "Good. He can have it all now. Stay here, Lil. Keep Daniel company. Eleanor with me." She grabbed the evidence stash from her pocket, the weight of it grounding her as she headed for the stairs, Eleanor trailing with her camera and a skip in her step, until she tripped on the rug, catching herself on the banister. Lillian's laugh echoed from the kitchen. "Smooth, Price. Don't break the evidence or yourself." "Stuff it," Eleanor grumbled, righting her glasses as they climbed. Room 7's door was ajar, the faint piney whiff of Samuel's cologne drifting out. He stood by the window, his dark overcoat brushing the sill, his gray eyes scanning the lake view as if it held answers. He turned at their steps, his strong jaw tightening, the scar above his eyebrow catching the light. "Amelia," he said, his voice gruff but laced with that familiar concern. "What have you done now?" "Caught your killer," she said, stepping in and spreading the haul on the bed. "Knife, line, flannel, letter. Hank Rawls' boat, slip 3 at the bend, knife's Lillian's, blood's Victor's. Test it." Line matches the murder weapon, shirt's his, and this letter ties him to some old pact business. He ran when we confronted him, but we've got photos. Eleanor's got the goods. Samuel's eyes widened, then narrowed, his hand running through his graying hair. "I told you to stay out of this," he said, but there was no heat in it, just exasperation and a flicker of something softer as he met her gaze. "You're going to get hurt one of these days." "Hasn't happened yet," she said, her dry wit kicking in. "And you've got your case handed to you. Say thank you and move." Eleanor clicked her camera, pulling up the shots on the screen. Hank's scowl, the boat's deck, the knife glinting under the tarp. "Here," she said, handing it over. "Time-stamped and everything. Your witness saw him near the inn. We saw him at the Flow. He's done." Samuel took the camera, scrolling through, his jaw working as he processed it. "Damn it," he muttered, setting it down and grabbing the knife, careful with the handkerchief. "This is solid, too solid. He's bolted?" "Into the trees," Amelia said. "Fast for a big guy, headed downriver probably. Maggie at the dock says he's slippery, knows the Flow better than anyone." He nodded, pocketing the evidence in a plastic bag from his coat. "I'll radio it in. Deputies'll sweep the bend. You 3 stay put. Don't chase him again, hear me?" "No promises," Amelia said, crossing her arms, but her lips twitched into a half-smile. He sighed, a rare crack in his stern facade, and brushed past her to the door, his shoulder grazing hers. "Don't make me regret this," he said, his voice low, and then he was gone, his boots thumping down the stairs. Eleanor plopped onto the bed, her camera back in hand. "He's smitten," she teased, grinning. "Left you evidence last time, took ours now. Slow burns heating up." "Shut it," Amelia said, but her cheeks warmed as she turned to the window, the lake glinting beyond. "We're not done. Hank's still out there." The words barely left her mouth when a shout echoed from outside, Lillian's voice, sharp and urgent. "Amelia! He's here!" They bolted downstairs, Amelia's boots skidding on the landing as she hit the lobby. Lillian stood at the back door, rolling pin in hand, staring into the garden. Hank Rawls loomed by the lavender beds, his cap gone, his jacket torn, his weathered face twisted with fury. He clutched a fishing rod like a club, mud streaking his boots as he glared through the glass. "Stay back!" Amelia barked, shoving Eleanor behind her as Lillian raised the rolling pin. "Samuel's on it! Give up, Hank!" "You meddling bitches," he snarled, his voice raw. "Should have left it alone. Grayson did, and look where it got him." He swung the rod, smashing a flower box off the porch railing, the crash splintering the quiet. Lillian lunged forward, but Amelia grabbed her arm. "Wait, he's cornered. Let him tire out." Hank roared, charging the door, but a golf cart's screech cut through the chaos. Samuel, barreling in from Main Street, deputies in tow. He leapt out, badge flashing, his gray eyes locked on Hank. "Rawls, drop it, now!" Hank froze, the rod trembling in his grip, then hurled it at the cart and bolted toward the lake path. Eleanor, caught off guard, stumbled forward to snap a photo and tripped over the broken flower box, tumbling headfirst into a muddy puddle with a yelp. Lillian howled with laughter, dropping the rolling pin as Samuel and the deputies gave chase. "Told you, Price. Trout in the mud." "Help me up," Eleanor sputtered, flailing as Amelia hauled her out, mud dripping from her braid. Amelia grinned, wiping her hands on her apron. "Nice shot. Hope the camera's dry." The deputies' shouts faded down the path, Hank's heavy steps no match for their speed. Samuel's voice rang out, "Got him!" And the inn settled back into its creaky calm, the chase swallowed by the willows. Chapter 9. Hooked and Booked. The Willowmere Inn buzzed back to life as the echoes of Hank Rawls's capture faded down the lake path, the deputies' shouts swallowed by the rustling willows. Amelia Harrow stood on the wraparound porch, her boots still caked with garden mud, her hazel eyes tracking the golf cart's retreat toward Main Street. The broken flower box lay in splinters at her feet, a casualty of Hank's last stand, and the air smelled of crushed lavender and the faint tang of river water clinging to Eleanor's soaked cardigan. Lillian Nassif leaned against the railing, her rolling pin dangling from one hand, her dark bun a wild tangle after the morning's chaos. "Slippery bastard didn't slip far," she said, her lips twitching into a smirk. "Should have kept the net. Could have dragged him to Samuel myself." Amelia chuckled, her dry wit cutting through the adrenaline crash. "And given him 2 arrests to process? Let's not push our luck. He's already half a breath from cuffing us for meddling." Eleanor Price wrung out her braid over the porch edge, muddy water dripping onto the boards as she clutched her camera with her free hand. "Worth it," she said, grinning despite her soggy state. "Got a shot of him swinging that rod? Blurry but dramatic. Think Samuel'll hang it in the station?" "Only if he's got a sense of humor," Lillian shot back, her sharp tongue primed. "Which he doesn't, unless you count glaring at us as a punchline." The kitchen door swung open, and Daniel Nassif stepped out, a tray of steaming coffee mugs in his steady hands, his gray-streaked beard catching the late morning light. "Caught your fish, then?" he said, his calm voice a balm against the trio's buzz. "Guests are asking about the racket. Told 'em it was a delivery gone wrong." "Close enough," Amelia said, snagging a mug and letting the warmth seep into her fingers. "Hank's delivery of trouble's been signed for. Samuel's got him now." She sipped, the bitter roast grounding her as she replayed Hank's snarled confession. "Grayson saw my stash," and the shadow of the Willowmere Pact loomed larger in her mind. They shuffled inside, the lobby's creaky floorboards groaning under their muddy boots, the grandfather clock still mocking them at 6:47. The dining room hummed with a few lingering guests, their whispers of murder and that fisherman floating over checkered tablecloths as Daniel set out flatbreads to smooth the ruffled feathers. Amelia slid into a chair, spreading the evidence haul on the table, the knife, fishing line, flannel scrap, and Silas Rawls' letter, all bagged now thanks to Samuel's quick grab. Eleanor plopped down beside her, her camera clicking as she reviewed shots. "Look at this," she said, zooming in on Hank's scowl mid-swing. "Pure gold. Wish I'd caught the net moment, though. Lil, you were a hero out there." "Hero's overstating it," Lillian said, dropping into a seat with her coffee. "Just pissed he messed with my knife. Still am. Samuel better not lose it in evidence or I'm billing the station." Amelia smirked, tracing the letter's faded ink through the plastic. "Add it to Hank's tab. Murder, assault, and kitchen theft. But this packed stuff, what's my stash?" Victor wasn't just a fishing braggart. Hank killed him for more than a trout. "Smuggling's my guess," Eleanor said, setting her camera aside to sip her coffee, wincing as it hit her muddy lips. "Silas ran boats for the Pact. Liquor, maybe, or contraband up the flow. Hank's family's been here forever. Could be he's kept it going small scale. Victor stumbles on it, threatens to blab, and..." She mimed a strangling motion, nearly knocking over her mug. Lillian caught it, rolling her eyes. "Easy. Price, don't strangle the tableware. Could be, though. That boat's a wreck, but it's got hiding spots. Tarp was covering something lumpy." "Gear, we thought," Amelia said, her mind ticking. "But maybe not just tackle. Samuel'll search it. Might find more than we did." She leaned back, the chair creaking, and glanced out the bay window at the lake's glassy sheen. The flow wound beyond, its secrets deeper than she'd guessed. The front door creaked open, and Samuel Carter strode in, his dark overcoat dusted with riverbank dirt, his gray eyes sharp but tired. His badge glinted as he crossed the lobby, deputies trailing with radios crackling. Hank secured, carted off to the station. He stopped at their table, his strong jaw set, the scar above his eyebrow stark in the light. "You 3, he said, his voice a mix of exasperation and reluctant respect, "are a damn menace." "Menace with results," Amelia said, nudging the evidence bags toward him. "He confessed. Sort of. Said Victor saw his stash, wouldn't shut up about it. Your move, detective." Samuel sighed, running a hand through his graying hair, but his gaze lingered on her, a flicker of warmth breaking through the gruffness. "He's booked. Murder 1, assault on you lot, resisting arrest. Singing like a bird now, claims Grayson caught him stashing old coins and trinkets in a hollow by the bend. Family heirlooms, he says, from his smuggling kin. Got greedy, thought Grayson'd spill and ruin him." "Coins?" Eleanor's blue eyes lit up, her historian streak kicking in. "Like the ones in that box. Packed loot, maybe? That's wild." Wild's one word, Samuel said, pocketing the bags. We're searching the boat, found a false panel already, some tarnished junk inside. Not smuggling now, just hoarding history, enough to kill for, apparently. Forensics'll match the knife and line. Case'll stick. Lillian smirked, leaning back with her coffee. Told you? My knife's the star? He owe me a new one yet? Take it up with the courts, Samuel said, a rare smirk tugging at his lips. You've done enough, too much. Stay out of my next one, huh? No promises, Amelia said, her tone light but her hazel eyes steady on his. You left those notes. Knew we'd run with it. Don't pretend you're mad. He held her gaze a beat longer, the air between them crackling with unspoken things, then shook his head. You're impossible, he muttered, but the smirk stayed as he turned to go. Deputies'll clear the garden. Don't touch anything else. He paused at the door, glancing back. And, good work. Don't quote me. The door swung shut, and Eleanor grinned, nudging Amelia. He's smitten, admit it. That good work was practically a love letter. Stuff it, Amelia said, but her cheeks warmed as she sipped her coffee, hiding the smile. He's just glad we didn't die. Lillian laughed, a full, rare sound that bounced off the dining room walls. Sure, that's it. Next time he'll leave flowers with the case files. Daniel slid into a chair, his tray empty, his quiet presence settling them. Guests are calming down. Flatbreads worked, but word's out. Inn's the talk of Willowmere again. Good or bad, that's on you, Amelia. Good, she said, firm but warm, the way her grandmother would have said it. We caught him, kept the town safe, reputational hold. She glanced at the evidence bags disappearing with Samuel, then out at the lake. But the pact, those coins, there's more under the surface here. Always is, Eleanor said, pulling out her ledger from the bag she'd hauled back. I'll dig deeper. Library's got more on the pact than we've cracked. Hank's just a thread. Silas was the weave. Later, Lillian said, standing with a stretch. I've got dinner prep. Guests'll want feeding after this circus. Daniel, you're on dishes. I'm not touching that sink again. Fair, he said, his grin unwavering as he rose. You three earned a break. Don't waste it chasing shadows. Amelia lingered at the table as they dispersed, the inn's hum wrapping around her, the clink of dishes, the murmur of guests, the creak of the porch outside. Samuel's golf cart was a speck on Main Street now, Hank's fate sealed, but that stash nagged at her. Coins and trinkets, packed relics, hidden by the flow. Victor had died for it, and Hank had killed to keep it. What else was buried in Willowmere's roots? She stood, brushing mud from her apron, and stepped onto the porch. The lake glittered beyond, the flow winding, silent, and deep. Samuel's words, good work, echoed with that smirk, and she let herself feel it, just for a moment, before the inn called her back. Hank was hooked and booked, the inn's reputation bruised, but breathing. But the flow kept its secrets, and Amelia knew they'd ripple up again, maybe not today, but soon. Chapter 10. The inn's reputation. The afternoon sun slanted through the Willowmere Inn's bay window, casting checkered patterns across the dining room, as Amelia Harrow wiped down tables, her boots still leaving faint mud smears on the creaky floorboards. The air smelled of Daniel's fresh flatbreads and the lemon polish she'd used to scrub away the morning's chaos, but a faint whiff of river mud lingered on her apron. Hank Rawls's last gift before Samuel hauled him off. The inn was humming again, guests trickling back to their routines, their whispers of murder now tinged with curiosity rather than fear. Lillian Nassif stormed out of the kitchen, her chef's coat swapped for a clean one, her dark bun tamed but her eyes still sharp with leftover fire. Guests are eating, finally, she said, dropping a tray of za'atar-spiced rolls onto a table. Had to double the batch. Daniel's charm only goes so far when they've seen a mad fisherman smash a flower box. Amelia smirked, her dry wit kicking in as she stacked chairs. Should have netted him for the show. Charge extra for the drama. Don't tempt me, Lillian said, snagging a roll and tearing into it. Next time, I'm keeping the rolling pin handy. Guests pay to see me take him down. Eleanor Price shuffled in from the lobby, her braid damp but neater. Her cardigan swapped for a dry one after her puddle dive. She clutched a stack of library books, new ones, judging by the crisp spines, and her camera dangled around her neck, mud-free at last. They're already talking, she said, plopping the books on a table. Mrs. Pembroke's been by, says Main Street's buzzing about the innkeeper's posse. We're legends now. Legends or lunatics, Amelia said, brushing mud from her hands. Either way, the inn's still standing. Grandma'd be proud. She glanced at the grandfather clock, its hands frozen at 6:47, and sighed. Another fix for another day. Daniel emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron, his weathered face calm despite the day's storm. Reputation's holding, he said, his voice steady as always. Guests are asking if it's safe. Told 'em the killer's gone and the flatbreads are free till supper. Keeps 'em quiet. Good move, Amelia said, her tone warm but firm, channeling her grandmother's knack for smoothing ruffled feathers. We've got bookings holding, 2 cancellations, but 3 new ones called in. Murder's a draw, apparently. Lillian snorted, crumbs falling from her roll. Sick bastards. Next, they'll want a Grayson special on the menu, overcooked trout and a side of fishing line. Eleanor grinned, flipping open a book. Willowmere, A History, 1800-1900. Could work. Tourists love a gimmick. But seriously, this packed stuff's gold. Hank's stash ties to Silas. Library's got more. I'm digging tomorrow. Main Street's eating it up. Eat this instead, Lillian said, shoving the tray toward her. You're skinny enough without skipping meals for books. Fair, Eleanor said, grabbing a roll and munching as she scanned a page. Says here Silas Rawls ran night boats. Fined twice, both dropped. Pacts mentioned. River Council, hush-hush. Hank's coins could be from that. Amelia's hazel eyes sharpened, the fishhook in her pocket a quiet nudge. Night boats, smuggling like you thought. Hank's hoarding more than coins, pride's in it. Victor poked that, got hooked. Literally, Lillian said, her smirk grim. Should have stuck to city ponds, Flow's ours. The front door creaked, and Mrs. Pembroke bustled in, her knitting bag swinging, her gray curls bouncing with purpose. Amelia Harrow, she chirped, her voice a mix of glee and gossip. Heard you nabbed that Rawls boy. Main Street's alive with it. Clara says he's confessed. True? True enough, Amelia said, her dry edge softening for the old bat. Samuel's got him. Murder one, some old stash Victor found. Coffee, Mrs. P? Bless you, yes, Mrs. Pembroke said, settling at a table, needles already clicking. Heard it from Jed. Hank's boat's at the station, coins spilling out. Town saying you 3 are heroes, saved Willowmere from a madman. Heroes with mud on our boots, Eleanor said, grinning as she snapped a photo of Mrs. Pembroke mid-knit. For the scrapbook. Innkeeper's posse, +1. Lillian rolled her eyes, but her lips twitched. Keep knitting, Pembroke. Don't need your yarn tangling our tale. Amelia poured coffee, the inn's hum settling her. Guests nibbling, Daniel's flatbreads vanishing, the chaos fading. But the pact nagged her, Silas's shadow stretched long, and Hank's stash was just the tip. What's Main Street saying about the coins, she asked, sliding Mrs. Pembroke a mug. Old money, 1800s, they reckon, Mrs. Pembroke said, sipping with relish. Jed saw 'em, tarnished, stamped funny. Hank's kin were river rats, always knew it. Clara's boy says Samuel's got deputies digging the bend. More there, maybe. More? Eleanor's eyes lit up, her book forgotten. Like what, loot? Bones? Packs a rabbit hole. Slow down, Price, Amelia said, her smirk faint. Samuel's on it. Let him dig. We've done our part. Part's right, Lillian muttered, crossing her arms. My knife's still evidence. Hank owes me. Court's better cough up a new one. Mrs. Pembroke clucked, needles flying. He'll pay, dear. Town won't let him off. You're the talk. Inn's a beacon now. Bookings'll soar. Mark my words. The door swung again, and Samuel Carter strode in, his dark overcoat shedding dust, his gray eyes tired but sharp. His badge glinted as he crossed the lobby, a manila folder under his arm, thicker now, case closed but not quiet. He stopped at their table, his scar catching the light, that piney cologne hitting Amelia like a jab. Harrow, he said, his voice gruff but softer when it landed on her. You're still here. Thought you'd be back at the Flow, stirring more trouble. Thought about it, she said, her hazel eyes steady, a half-smile tugging. But guests need feeding. Reputation's on me. Case wrapped? Wrapped tight, he said, dropping the folder, closed this time, no gifts. Hank's plead guilty. Murder 1, assault, resisting. Coins are 1870s packed junk. Found a hollow by the bend, more trinkets. No bones, Price. Quit dreaming. Eleanor pouted, but her grin stayed. Spoil sport, bones'd be epic. Photos helped? Helped plenty, he admitted, his smirk flickering. Forensics matched the knife. Grayson's blood, Hank's prints. Lines his, shirts his mess, case his iron. He's done. Lillian leaned forward, her dark eyes blazing. My knife, when do I get it? He dulled it, that bastard. Evidence till sentencing, Samuel said, sidestepping her glare. Buy a new one. Bill me if you're pissy. Deal, she snapped, cracking her knuckles. You're lucky I don't net you for it. Amelia chuckled, nudging the coffee pot his way. Drink. You look beat. Ben's clear? Clear enough, he said, taking a mug, his fingers brushing hers. A jolt she ignored. Deputies swept it, coins, some rusted junk. Hank's ranting about family honor. Silas's ghost, not my problem. Town's safe. Your inn's the hero. Hero's a stretch, she said, her dry wit kicking in. We stumbled into it, you cleaned up. Stumbled my ass, he muttered, sipping, his gray eyes locking on hers over the rim. You handed me a case. Don't downplay it. Just stay out of my next one. No promises, she said, her smile faint but real. You keep dropping crumbs. Hard to resist. He held her gaze, the air crackling, then shook his head. Impossible, he said, but the smirk stayed as he turned to go. Garden's clear. Don't touch the tape till tomorrow. He paused at the door, glancing back. Good work again, don't quote me. The door shut, and Eleanor grinned, nudging Amelia. Smitten, 2 good works in a day. He's toast. Stuff it, Amelia said, but her cheeks warmed as she poured more coffee, hiding the flush. He's just glad we're alive. Lillian laughed, loud and sharp. Sure, next he'll carve your initials on his badge. Man's hooked. Mrs. Pembroke clucked, needles pausing. He's a good egg, scar and all. You lot saved us inn's gold now. Daniel slid into a chair, his apron dusted with flour, his calm anchoring them. She's right. Bookings are up. Guests want the story. Keeps 'em coming. You 3 pulled it off. Amelia leaned back, the chair creaking, the inn's hum wrapping her, the clink of mugs, Mrs. Pembroke's chatter, the rustle of Eleanor's books. The flow glittered beyond the window, its secrets quieter now, but not gone. Hank was booked, the inn's reputation bruised but shining, Grandma's legacy held. Yet Silas's shadow lingered, coins, packed whispers, a river still hiding things. She stood, brushing her apron, and stepped to the porch. The lake shimmered, the flow winding deep. Samuel's golf cart was gone, his words, good work, echoing with that piney whiff. She let it sit just for a moment before the inn pulled her back. The reputation was safe, the story alive. But the flow wasn't done talking, and neither was she. Chapter 11. Ripples of the Past. The evening settled over Willowmere like a soft blanket, the lake beyond the inn's bay window turning a deep indigo as the last light bled from the sky. Amelia Harrow stood behind the check-in desk, her boots finally free of mud after a stubborn scrub, her hazel eyes scanning the guest ledger under the glow of a brass lamp. The inn hummed with a quiet energy. Guests lingered in the dining room over Daniel's flatbreads, their chatter a low murmur of, that fisherman and those women. The day's chaos now a story to tell. The air smelled of za'atar and coffee, the lemon polish fading into the night. Lillian Nassif slumped into a lobby chair, her chef's coat off for the day, her dark hair spilling loose from its bun as she nursed a mug of tea. Chamomile, a rare concession to calm. Dinner's done, she said, her voice rough but steady. Guests are stuffed. 2 asked for seconds like we're a damn buffet. Sink's quiet, miracle of miracles, Daniel's a wizard. Amelia smirked, her dry wit sharp as she flipped a page. Wizard or masochist, either way, he's earned a medal. Bookings are steady, Mrs. Pembroke's right, murder's a draw. We're at 10 for the weekend. Good, Lillian said, sipping her tea with a grimace. Too hot, or maybe just not whiskey. Reputation's gold now. Hank's a bastard, but he's our bastard. Gave us a boost. The front door creaked and Eleanor Price stumbled in, her arms loaded with yet another stack of library books, her braid fraying with twigs from an evening walk. Her glasses slid down her nose as she caught her foot on the rug, predictably, spilling a pamphlet that fluttered toward the hearth. Got more, she panted, righting herself with a grin. Pact's a maze. Silas Rawls wasn't just a boatman, he was a kingpin. Library's buzzing, Clara's hooked too, Lillian snorted, setting her mug down. Hooked like Grayson? Careful, Price, don't end up in the flow. Very funny, Eleanor said, dropping her haul on the desk, narrowly missing Amelia's ledger. But listen, Silas had a crew, 3 names in the logs, a merchant, a councilman, and a dockhand. Fines dropped every time. Someone big was greasing palms. Hank's coins? Tip of it. There's more out there. Amelia's pulse ticked, the fishhook still in her apron pocket a quiet jab. More like what? Loot? Bodies? Samuel said no bones, but he's not digging history, just crime. Could be either, Eleanor said, flipping open a book, Willowmere Chronicles 1875. Look, Silas Rawls, night runs, cargo unlisted. Whispers of weight in the water, 3 missing that year, never found. Pact kept it quiet. Hank's family's been sitting on it since. Lillian leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing. Weight in the water? Bodies? You're saying Silas killed and Hank's guarding corpses? Maybe not corpses now, Eleanor said, her blue eyes bright behind her glasses. But relics, coins, trinkets, proof of something dirty. Victor saw it. Hank snapped. Pride's one thing, but secrets like that? Worth strangling for. Amelia tapped the desk, her mind spinning. Scales, hooks, coins, now this. Samuel's got the boat, the hollow, thinks it's wrapped. But if Silas left more, Hank's not spilling. He's locked up. Someone else might know. Like who? Lillian asked, cracking her knuckles. Jed? Maggie? They're Flow folk. Might have heard whispers. Or Clara, Eleanor said, grinning. She's got every book. Her boy's been at the docks, too. Main Street's a net. Cast it. Something'll snag. The kitchen door swung open, and Daniel stepped out, his apron off, his gray-streaked beard catching the lamplight. Guests are settling, he said, his calm voice cutting through their buzz. Room 5's asking about the murder room. Told him it's just a bed now. You 3 plotting again? Always, Amelia said, her smirk faint. Pact's got legs. Silas Rawls left a mess, and Hank's only part. Might take a trip tomorrow. Main Street or the Flow. Sniff it out. Daniel nodded, his warm brown eyes steady. Reputation's up. Don't sink it chasing ghosts. But you've got a knack, kept us afloat today. Ghosts pay bills, Lillian muttered, standing with a stretch. I'm in. Knife still in evidence. Need a distraction. Eleanor grabbed her camera, her energy unspent. Me too. Photos of the bend, maybe? Samuel's done. Our turn now. Amelia hesitated, the inn's hum grounding her. Guests safe, bookings solid, Hank booked. But the Flow tugged, its secrets rippling like the lake outside. Fine, she said, her tone firm. Tomorrow, first light. Flow again. Jed's our start, knows more than he lets on. The night deepened as they split. Lillian to her room, Eleanor to crash in room 9 with her books, Daniel to lock up. Amelia lingered at the desk, flipping the ledger shut, her gaze drifting to the bay window. The lake was a dark mirror now, the Flow a silent thread beyond. She locked the front door, a habit since Hank's shadow, and stepped onto the porch. The air cool and thick with lavender. A golf cart's hum broke the quiet, headlights cutting through the dusk as Samuel Carter pulled up, his dark overcoat a silhouette against the glow. He climbed out, his gray eyes catching hers, his scar stark in the porch light. Harrow, he said, his voice gruff but softer at the edges, that piney cologne drifting close. Thought you'd be asleep. Big day? Thought you'd be celebrating, she shot back, crossing her arms, her scarf fluttering. Case closed. Hank's done. Closed till it isn't, he said, stepping onto the porch, his boots thudding. He's talking. Too much. Keeps saying they'll find it. Won't say what. Coins are logged, boats stripped, nothing left but his ranting. Amelia's pulse ticked again. They'll find it. Packed stuff? Eleanor's got logs. Silas ran night boats, missing people. More out there? Samuel sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. Maybe. History's not my beat. Found a rusted box in the hollow. Empty but old. Hank spooked. Thinks someone's after it. Told him he's crazy. Locked up. Who's looking? Us, she said, her dry wit kicking in. You know we're not done. Flow's whispering. He groaned, but his smirk flickered. Knew it. You're a damn bloodhound. Stay out of it. Hank's my mess, not yours. No promises, she said, her hazel eyes steady on his. You left crumbs, notes, now this. Can't resist a trail. He stepped closer, the air crackling, his piney scent sharp. You're impossible, he muttered, but his gaze lingered, warm under the gruff. Flow's clear. Don't stir it up. I've got enough paperwork. Paperwork's your problem, she said, her lips twitching. We'll be quiet. Jed's tomorrow, maybe Maggie. Just talking. Talking's how you started this, he said, shaking his head, but he didn't back off. Fine, don't get hurt. And don't quote me. Good work today. 3 times, she teased, her smile breaking through. You're slipping, Carter. He grunted, brushing past her, close enough for his heat to linger, and headed to his cart. Sleep, Harrow. Crazy needs rest. The engine hummed and he was gone, taillights fading down Main Street. Amelia stood there, the porch creaking under her, Samuel's words, good work, mixing with the Flow's pull. She stepped inside, locking up, and climbed to her room above the lobby. The inn settled, guests snoring, Eleanor's light still on, Lillian's tea mug cold on the chair. She kicked off her boots, the fishhook heavy in her apron as she hung it on the peg. Sleep came slow, the lake's dark gleam in her mind, Silas's shadow stretching from 1875. Hank was booked, the inn's reputation gold, but the pact rippled. Coins, whispers, weight in the water. Morning would bring Jed, the flow, maybe answers. She drifted off, the inn's creeks a lullaby, the river waiting. Dawn broke gray, the lake a slate slab, as Amelia met Lillian and Eleanor on the porch, coffee in hand, the golf cart humming. Jed first, she said, her scarf tight against the chill. He's cagey, knows Silas's tales. Lillian nodded, net in hand, habit now. If he's got dirt, I'll drag it out, knife or no knife. Eleanor clutched her camera, books in a satchel. Photos and logs, pacts alive, let's cast. The ride to the flow was brisk, Main Street sleepy, the dock stirring as they parked by Slip 5. Jed squinted from his skiff, net half mended, his watery eyes sharp. Back again, he said, his gravelly voice wary. Hank's nabbed, what now? History, Amelia said, stepping onto the bank. Silas Rawls, your kin knew him. Coins packed wet, missing folk. What's the flow hiding? Jed paused, his hands stilling on the net. Old tales. Silas was trouble. Ran night boats. Whiskey, some say, or worse. Folk vanished. 3, maybe more. Pact hushed it. Big names, not mine. Hank's stash? Scraps. Real loot's deeper, bend or beyond. Deeper how? Lillian pressed, net tapping her leg. Bodies? Boxes? Jed shrugged, his gaze flicking to the river. Dunno. River keeps it. Silas sank stuff. Weights, they said. Hank's granddad fished up coins once. Kept quiet. More's out there. Flow don't give it easy. Amelia's hazel eyes narrowed, the hook in her pocket cold. Waits, Eleanor's logs match. Where's beyond? Jed pointed downriver, past the bend. Old dock, crumbled now, Silas's spot. Deep water, trout don't swim there. Hank poked it, twitchy after. Eleanor snapped a photo, her grin wide. Jackpot, Silas's grave. We're going. Careful, Jed warned, nodding his net. Flow's tricky, Hank learned that. They piled back into the cart, the river's hum louder now, Silas's ripples spreading. The inn's reputation glowed, but the past wasn't done. Amelia felt it, sharp as a hook. Chapter 12. The Flow's Reckoning. The morning broke over Willowmere with a crisp edge, the kind of chill that bit at your fingers and turned the lake into a mirror of frost-tipped gray. Amelia Harrow stood on the inn's wraparound porch, her breath puffing in the dawn air as she tugged her scarf tight, her hazel eyes fixed on the Willowmere Flow winding beyond the willows. The fishhook in her apron pocket was a cold weight against her hip, a silent prod from the past. Silas Rawls' shadow stretched long, and today they'd chase it to its end. The inn hummed behind her, guests still asleep, the lobby quiet save for the creak of floorboards under her boots. Lillian Nassif emerged from the back door, her jacket zipped to her chin, Daniel's old fishing net slung over her shoulder like a battle standard. Her dark hair was loose, framing her sharp eyes with a wild edge, and she carried a thermos of coffee. Black, no nonsense. Daniel's got breakfast covered, she said, her voice rough with sleep but steady. Poor man's kneading dough like it's therapy. Guests won't starve. You sure about this? Sure as I'll ever be, Amelia said, her dry wit cutting through the chill. Jed's tip, old dock, deep water. Silas sank something and Hank killed to keep it. We're ending this, Flo's done whispering. Eleanor Price stumbled out next, her braid a mess of twigs from yesterday's recon, her arms loaded with a camera, a battered ledger, and a flashlight she'd dug from the inn's shed. She tripped over the porch step, naturally, catching herself on the railing with a yelp, her glasses fogging as she panted. Ready, she said, righting herself, her blue eyes bright with historian zeal. Old dock's a mile past the bend, Silas's spot. I've got maps, logs, pacts in there. We're cracking it today. Lillian smirked, handing her the thermos. Crack your skull first. Price, watch your feet. If we're diving into Silas's grave, I'm not fishing you out. Ha ha, Eleanor shot back, sipping the coffee with a wince. Too bitter, but she powered through. You'll thank me when we find gold, or bones. Cameras charged, evidence for Samuel, history for me. Amelia grabbed the golf cart keys, her boots thudding as she led them to the cart parked out back. No bones, Samuel'd lose it. But loot? Pact's weight? That's ours. Hank's not hiding it anymore. She slid behind the wheel, the seat creaking, and hit the throttle, the hum cutting through the dawn stillness as they rolled toward the flow. The ride was brisk, the air sharp with damp earth and fish as they passed Main Street's sleepy core, the toy chest sign swaying, Willowmere Books windows dark. A few early risers nodded, Mrs. Pembroke sweeping her stoop, Jed's skiff already bobbing at the docks. The bend loomed after 10 minutes, the river narrowing, its banks thick with reeds and willows drooping low. Amelia slowed, parking behind a cluster of trees, the old dock Jed mentioned a faint outline in the mist, a crumbled ruin of rotted wood and rusted nails jutting from the muddy shore. "There," she said, stepping onto the bank, her boots squelching. "Deep water. Trout don't swim here. Silas's spot." Lillian hefted the net, her eyes scanning the river's glassy surface. "Deep's right. Looks like it'd swallow you whole." "What's the plan? Poke around, hope something floats up." "More than hope," Eleanor said, pulling the ledger from her satchel, its pages brittle but marked with a crude map. Silas X near the dock. "Logs say he sank cargo here, waits to keep it down. Coins maybe or contraband. Pact's hush money. We look, mud, water, whatever's left." Amelia nodded, her mind ticking. Scales, hooks, coins, now weights. "Start on the bank. Look for signs. If it's underwater, we'll figure it out. Quiet. Don't need fishermen sniffing around." They spread out, the river's murmur a steady hum, the mist curling around their ankles like ghosts. Amelia knelt by the dock's edge, her fingers brushing the mud, soft, fresh, like someone been here. A glint caught her eye, a tarnished coin, half buried, stamped with an 1870s date, same as Hank's stash. "Got one?" she called, prying it free with a twig, its metal cold and heavy. Lillian crouched nearby, her net tapping the ground, and froze. "Scales. More of 'em, stuck in the cracks. Fresh. Someone's been gutting here recent." Eleanor snapped a photo, her flashlight sweeping the bank. "Hank? Before he got nabbed? Or someone else? Pact's not dead if Jed's right." She moved to the water's edge, peering into the depths, and gasped. "There! Something shiny under the dock!" Amelia joined her, squinting through the murk, a metal edge, rusted but solid, poking from the silt. "Box? Big one? Silas's weight?" She grabbed a broken plank from the dock, probing the water. Mud swirled, but the object held firm, too heavy to shift. Lillian dropped the net, grabbing another plank. "Let's dig. Can't leave it. If it's packed loot, we've got him, Silas, Hank, the lot." They worked together, the planks scraping silt, the box emerging inch by inch, a rusted chest, hinges snapped, its lid cracked open. Inside glinted coins, dozens of them, tarnished but intact, mixed with rusted tools and a sealed tin, watertight despite the years. "Jackpot," Amelia breathed, hauling it onto the bank, her scarf slipping as mud streaked her hands. "More than Hank had. This is it." Eleanor pounced, her camera clicking, her flashlight illuminating the hall. "Coins, 1870s again, Silas's era. Tools, dockhand stuff maybe. Tin's the prize, sealed, could be papers proof." She pried it open with a creak, revealing a folded parchment, yellowed, smudged, but legible. Willowmere Pact, 1875. Silas Rawls, Merchant T. Harrow, Councilman J. Price. Cargo secured, river clear, 3 disposed. "Disposed," Lillian hissed, her dark eyes blazing. "Bodies. Eleanor was right. Silas killed, Pact covered it, 3 gone like the logs said." Amelia's pulse raced, her fingers tracing the names. Harrow, Price, echoes of her own kin, Eleanor's too. "My great whatever. Yours too, Price. We're tied to this. Inn's roots, library's dust. Silas ran it. They hushed it." Eleanor paled, her glasses slipping. "T. Harrow, Thomas, merchant. Clara's got his ledger. J. Price, Jacob, councilman, my line. They sank it, literally. Hank's just the end." The river's hum grew louder, a splash breaking the quiet. A skiff rounding the bend, Jed at the helm, his grizzled face grim. "Knew you'd poke it," he called, docking with a thud. "Saw the cart, figured it was time. That's Silas's box." "Yours too?" Amelia asked, standing, the chest heavy beside her. "You knew. Why hold back?" Jed shrugged, stepping onto the bank, his watery eyes sharp. "Kin, distant. Silas was my great-uncle. Hank's side too. Pact's old shame, knew it'd surface. Hank poked it. Grayson died. I stayed quiet till you forced it." Lillian's net tapped his leg, her smirk grim. "Quiet's over. Spill. What's disposed? Who'd they kill?" Jed sighed, his hands knotting a phantom net. "Rivals, 3 boatmen, crossed Silas in 75. Whiskey run went sour. They threatened to talk. Pact drowned 'em, weights on their legs. Flow took 'em. Coins were profit, buried after Silas's cut." Amelia's hazel eyes narrowed, the hook in her pocket a jab. "Hank found it, Victor too. Killed to keep it buried. Family pride?" "Pride and panic," Jed said, nodding. "Found coins as a kid. His granddad did too. Kept it secret. Pact's curse. Grayson bragged he'd dig it up. Hank snapped." Eleanor snapped another photo, the tin's parchment stark in the flash. "Proof? Pact's done. Samuel needs this. Town does. No, Amelia said, her tone firm, the inn's hum in her bones. Not yet. Hank's booked. Case closed. This stays ours. Inn's story, not Main Street's gossip. Silas's shame's ours, too. Harrow, Price, Rawls. We bury it proper, Lillian frowned, net still. Bury it? After all this, let it rot? Not rot. Rest, Amelia said, her voice steady, warm like her grandmother's. Hank's done. Victor's avenged. Town's safe. Inn's gold. This, she tapped the chest, is history, not a circus. We keep it quiet. Jed nodded, his gaze soft. Smart. Silas hate the spotlight. I'll help sink it deeper if you want. No, Eleanor said, clutching the tin. Keep it. Inn's vault, my library. Proof for us, not them. Silas's reckoning, our roots. Amelia met her eyes, then Lillian's. Agreement. Reluctant but real. Vault it is, under the desk, locked. Jed, you're in. Flow's yours too. Fair, he said, stepping back to his skiff. I'll watch. River's quiet now. They hauled the chest to the cart, mud-caked and silent, the river's murmur fading as they drove back. The inn loomed, its ivy glinting with dew, Daniel's flatbread scent wafting out. Guests stirred, oblivious, as they stashed the chest in the lobby vault, a rusted safe behind the desk, Grandma's relic. The tin went with it, locked tight, Silas's sins sealed. Samuel's golf cart screeched up as they finished, his dark overcoat flapping, his gray eyes sharp but curious. Harrow, he said, stepping in, piney cologne sharp. Heard from Jed. You're at it again. What now? Nothing, Amelia said, her smirk faint, hazel eyes steady. Flow's quiet. Hank's your mess. Coffee? He squinted, sensing the dodge, but sighed. Fine. Keep your secrets. Case is closed. Don't reopen it. He took the mug, his fingers brushing hers, a jolt she ignored, his smirk flickering. Good work. Don't quote me. 4, she teased, her smile breaking. You're cooked, Carter. Impossible, he muttered, sipping, but stayed, the inn's hum wrapping them. Silas's ripples stilled, the flow reckoned at last.